So I learned to make ocarinas when I was 15. First ocarinas I sold I didn't even fire, they broke, but ocarinas, and I've been making ocarinas for almost 40 years now. But a few years ago, I went to markets and I sold them. I was behind my stand, really virtuose, and people said, "Oh, that's nice. I would like to play like that. I cannot play like that." So I made a book, but people find it complicated. So you have ocarina, you like the guy who's playing it, and you buy an ocarina, and it ends up in your drawer, and I got bored of it because I did want to make something that people could play easy. And I found out it's not about the music, it's about the sound. Then I got really sick for a while. I had some problems, and I was laying in the bed most of the time, but I was possible to a few hours a day to play a little bit. And I got from a friend of me, he bought me a xun. It's like an egg of ceramic, it's a Chinese instrument. You play it like this, and it's quite difficult because you have to exactly put your mouth, but I couldn't even lift my arms good, so I thought that must be easier. So
the xun is, we have stories, so it's found 5,000 years.
Or even older. It's one of the oldest ocarina-like instruments. You play it like a pan flute, and it's a global flute, so it's a flute that is closed, and that's why the octave it's an octave lower than a normal flute, a long flute. So I took the xun and thought, okay, but you play it like this. What if you could play it like this, like you're praying? Like this. And then I got a bit better and I started meditating, and I did Qigong. And then in Qigong I learned a practice. It's like you really relax and you exhale slowly and you make a sound, what we did, like really low and slow. And if you exhale slowly, you hear your heartbeat and you hear where your tension is. And then I thought, imagine you also could relieve your throat. So we have a flute, you hold like this, completely relaxed, and you just sigh. Like a meditation, you do nothing. So if you do nothing, I made it like that, so all the function of the flute was taken over. And when I hold it and I sigh, you can sigh for half a minute longer because you don't need any pressure. So then I made holes in it to make some tones. Actually, it's not really important to play a melody because it's more a mirror of the breath, this flute, than it's actually an instrument. And if I put any pressure on my lips, it won't work. So if you don't relax, if you cannot relax, the enlightenment comes after the suffering. It's like that Zen. So that was the first flute I made. And I find myself again sometimes on the market or festival, but in front of my stand, sharing my enthusiasm with people, and not worrying about songs, or they're afraid, because people, if you relax, you can play it. So take a flute, sit under a tree, go try on the toilet at home or whatever. And it opened up something completely new, because I was not making music anymore, but I was making sounds. And then, while I was making those, and still some ocarinas, a guy contacted me from Belgium. It's a Belgian flute maker, Bram van Overbeke, makes beautiful instruments. He said, I found on the internet, I saw a guy, he had an instrument with 3 vessels and he played, wow, like incredible, you know. And he showed me the video and I said, the amazing, beautiful instrument. I said, wow. And I had a book in my cupboard, no?
Yeah.
And it has a picture on the front of an instrument like that, but I thought it was a thing, you blew on it and that was it. I didn't know it was such a beautiful instrument. And I found the guy was Alan Tower, a friend of us, of LA. And I looked him up and I saw on the video that he was playing an instrument. On the internet I found the instruments were made by Sharon Rowell. That's a lady, she died 3 weeks ago. It's a pity, she was really old and sick. And in the 80s she invented, actually she was a student just finished of the art academy and she wanted to work there because if in San Francisco, if you work at the art academy, you get a small place near San Francisco Bay and all the artists were living there. She was a wild lady, so she wanted to live there. And they asked, and she said, okay, I want to make art, I want to work here. They said, no, well, all the stages are full, but we're still looking for somebody who wants to learn people, to teach people to make ocarinas. And she said, I don't want to make ocarinas, I want to sculpture and make things. No, ocarina. So she got a studio and she started to make ocarinas. And I thought she was a wild lady, and she just broke up with her boyfriend. So at one evening, she told me this herself, it's not made up, when she was at 90 years old, so funny. She was in San Francisco Bay, and it was foggy outside, and she heard the horns of the foghorns. And she told me, the sound made me a bit horny, she said. I was like, oof. So she started to make vessels with one tone, first with 2 flutes and then with 3, and she. And when you play them yourself, the sound comes out to the ears and you are in a kind of 3-dimensional horn. And then she found out, maybe I can make some holes in it. And then she thought, maybe I can make a scale. And then she thought, when I make holes in the back, I can play with 3 hands. That's Huaca. She called it Huaca. That's another story. Why it's called Huaca? It's too much stories. If you want, I'll tell you later. And she found out that the sound, the 3 tones that going around, did something with people. People got emotional or started crying or all kinds of emotions. And she got in touch by the wife of Alan, by the way, with a Mexican shaman. His name was Rafael Bejarano. He played big didgeridoos made of acave, the big ones, and he played on big gatherings where world leaders come, and he played that, and he made these instruments too, but he made them like more pentatonic, and he played really rhythmically in front of people and near their faces because he thought he wanted to touch their
center.
No, the spine here. How
Pineal?
Yes,
The pineal.
exactly.
Okay.
So he made his own instruments, and the instrument I saw Alan play on the internet was an instrument of his. So now we're back at the friend telling me, I found an instrument on the internet and Alan Tao was playing it. So we looked up Rafael Bejarano, and my friend WhatsApped me back. He said, I just found a
Press
message.
release.
press release from Reuters that guy was killed this morning. He was with a group of 20 tourists doing a sound session like this in the neighbor of the pyramids in Egypt. They had big black bags with the didgeridoos, and the Egyptian army thought they were terrorists. They sent a helicopter and with 2 rockets, and only his mother survived. Yes, we go meet her next year. But and so that was the moment I found out about Alan, and I found out about this instrument, and about Sharon Rowell, and about Raphael. And I mailed Alan like, hello, I'm Hans, I'm Dutch, I'm a flute maker, and I'm sorry about your friend. And I think 50 minutes, less than half an hour later, I got a message back from him. He said, I just heard my friend died. And 5 minutes later, your email came in. I don't want to do anything to do with you. It's too much.
Because he said, I'm interested in the flute and maybe I can help.
It was.
And he said, Ellen said, this is too weird. He just died.
It's too weird.
5 minutes later, you're writing
so,
to help.
Ellen was off, but I saw the instrument. So I looked up all the videos I could find of this instrument. There was nothing. Only one video of Raphael playing this instrument. So I looked at the video and turned back and again, and I constructed an instrument I thought was like his instrument. And then after a month, Alan contacted me, can we Skype? And I said, yes, okay. So Alan said, there's nobody anymore in the world making this instrument. Could you, like you offered, maybe try? And I said, you mean something like this? Because I made it. And I was correct, it was in huaca. So I started to make huacas, and then he said, yes, it's nice, but Raphael always played, we were making an instrument that's more close to people, more around that. I said, I'm not into hocus pocus, I'm a flute maker, I just make instruments. But I knew this instrument did something with the sound, it felt, and I started making huacas, and I went to, again, festivals and markets, and every time I had a big one, and when I played to, for instance, a woman that was in a period, they start to cry. They said, oh, I feel it here. I said, there's something about the sound. So I learned more about these instruments and about this sound, but still I didn't know how to do it until I made a big Zen flute, and on the market I, for fun, put it on somebody's head that was sitting, and I blew like, but then much lower, and the guy said, whoa, the sound is, going, and then I thought, oh, huaca. We put it not in front of the head, we put it on the head. So I started to make instruments you can put on the head. I started to make even double flutes, and I got in contact with a psychologist. Psychologist. He said, I would like to use this instrument for EMDR. So because I think we can use it. So I started to make double flutes also, and the sound goes like this when you play it yourself. So you have the shift chord, the constancies. So I started making also for put on the head and different tunings, and I really started to get in not making music, because this instrument was much too difficult. Almost nobody can. It's melodic. So and then we found out, let's make an instrument you can put on the head, but also whatever you do, it's okay. So I started to get into harmonics. I got in touch with Mark Deutsch. He's from San Francisco. He has a whole new system about proportional harmony. It's really like what those guys are doing here. Bit different, but it means when you play the piano, it's tune tempered. And why? It's like, it's not exactly right, but when you transpose, you still have the same sound, but your brain has to calculate a little bit so it's correct in your head. But if you put, for instance, like 9 notes, and you don't have to transpose, you can tune those notes exactly, so there's no interference, and you can collect the sound without effort. It goes easy. So that's tuning. I start to make it, in the beginning it didn't look like this. We start to make the innate, and we call it innate because the sound is like inborn. It's like 3 flutes, but it doesn't matter. Any combination of holds, it's a harmony, proportional harmony. So you don't play music, you play harmony. So the idea is when you put it on somebody's head, this resonates through the skull to the inner ear, and you fool the brain, because the brain doesn't know anymore where the sound comes from. So if you let go, the brain thinks, okay, I'm inside the organ, I'm inside of the flute. So the idea is, when the sound is everywhere, you can be nowhere. When it doesn't sound...
That's a good one, no?
Yeah.
And the sound is everywhere, we are nowhere.
When it's not music but just harmony, you listen to nothing, because it's not, oh, it sounds like this or that. It's not the melody, it's just a harmony. So you can listen to nothing. And when you don't play your rhythm, it can be anywhere or everywhere. So it's just a place somebody told so beautiful. It's like you're always in that waterfall of thoughts and impressions around you. It's like you can step one a little bit back into the cave behind the waterfall. It's still there, but it's a moment to be just here and now or nowhere. And that became the inner. It took 3 years to it's the most difficult, the most easy instrument to play, but the most difficult to build. And it's still evolving. And normally I can play it on somebody's head. We can do it after if you want to have experience, but now I just let it. And because I'm a musician, I always try to make music on it still, but it's better in the hands of somebody who never played it, so after you can try it, because then it sounds the best, when you don't do any effort to make it sound like something. That's the innate. And then after, I went back to making ocarinas, but in a different way. I didn't want to make ocarinas with a book, with tones that. So I looked at the native American flute, and I thought that all the tunings I used before were in that instrument, and in many other instruments, in the banjo, in all the other instruments I found on the earth, the same tunings are in there. So I took the Native American flute as an example, and I put it in my ocarinas, and I started to make small ocarinas again, but pentatonic. So the holes are the same like a Native American flute, the 5 holes, this fourth is closed. Whole other story why is that, but I tell you another time. So I could make my small flutes again. And then I start to make bigger ocarinas. So and big ocarinas. And it didn't fit in my suitcase, but now I have ocarinas like this with really low sounds. And so I make flutes. But like the experience you have here now took me to all kinds of places in the world, into the resonance group. So that one moment when I heard one person died gave me a complete new life. And he's always looking the back of my shoulder. Now Shan Rowell is sitting here, and they like, no, like this. So, and then can I tell a little about this? Because only one and a half years ago, less than 2 years ago, I went for the first time to America. We came together with the resonance group, and I had a lot of these with me in the big box I sent, and we were in Paso Robles in California at the hotel monastery, and we had a presentation there. Many people like here, because you know what happens when I play the ocarina. After one day, I'm completely tired. Playing this whole day on people's head doesn't make me tired. It's the energy. Just I can do it for hours. You know, it's no problem. So how many? Okay. Okay. Just arrived yesterday. Sorry.
Even that one can be played on the head.
Yes, but the effect of this is completely different. So after the whole show, the guy said, the boss of the hotel, part of the residence group, Douglas Iris, he said, it's a pity you go, you know, and you don't stay here. But I was experimenting with these sounds. I recorded the sounds of this flute in a special studio, and I put them in small, cheap MP3 players, and I put them. The sounds in a circle, and they put them on, and when you walk the circle, it's beautiful. You have different sounds. So I took the MP3 players with me, and outside the hotel he had a beautiful labyrinth. So he said, just wait. We put the balls around the labyrinth, and he started to walk the labyrinth and said, that's what I want. So I went home. I found a way to make bigger ones with a sensor, so they react on your body heat. And when you walk the labyrinth or the circle, they play for you. Every time a different tone, random, but it's like you're inside the innate, but it's all around you. And that's what we're going to build here now. So I took stuff with me.
He makes very beautiful sound installations on trees, and they're all with biosensors, so when you pass by a sound is starting, and the idea is that you're in the sound, and it happens.
So all this is now, I have here not harmonic sounds, but I want to do one experiment. I want to let you hear. These are the sounds of the harmonics of a tuning fork. So not the actual sound of the tuning fork, but what comes after. That's what you don't hear. They are recorded with a very sensitive microphone. So they were attacked somewhere and then into the microphone and coming by. It's the same recording. It's like 20 different recordings, but of the same tuning fork. We put them around here. Actually, it would be better to have a circle, but I think it's okay now. And we put them on, and then we listened for 3-4 minutes to see what happens if you have two equal tempered tones, but played on a different moment. It starts to shift around, and that's a little bit the effect of the sound circle. Okay, I go. Put one here. These are half-watt players, just. You know. So if you put 50 of these balls in the middle of the room, you don't need those guys anymore. So this is the fact we call random, omnidirectional, harmonic sounds, ROS. And that's what we're working now at. This is a prototype. What's happening with these little guys, I show you. It's a kind of sound player inside, but it doesn't have a speaker. It uses the ceramic shell as a resonator. So the sound is everywhere. And we're working on it now to get these guys with a remote with 50 different compositions on them, random compositions. So you can use them, you put them on, you put them out, you can put the sensor on and out. So it's a whole new experience of working with sound.
This is self-generating because of each of the different frequencies.
They are
it's
working
a random-
alone, but the sounds inside are harmonic and they
Yeah.
record in a special way.
Yeah.
So they interfere just by being there. So the sounds sometimes go
Yeah.
a real circle, and 7 of these, it's a better experience. But my suitcase was full. So like that, you really sound coming there, and then sometimes you don't know, and they're so powerful. It's only half a watt, but when you put, for instance, a crystal bell in it, we did an experience with people sitting in front. We had a crystal bell, and we had this thing with exactly the same sound of that bell, and we put them beside, and people couldn't hear almost which was the bell or which was the marble. So the working title is Coconut, and I think in a few years it will be a whole new product. Well, not product, it's more like a service to
Harmony, no?
to use. Yeah.
I was at the official dinner in a very straight setup. I think it was 1.5 years ago, and one of our research members from this international group, she had those coconuts with her, and it was a bit, uptight space and all of that, the dinner, and there were some issues and all of that. And then at one moment she said, "Oh, before we take the meal, actually, before the next course, I have those coconuts, and can we just listen a little bit?" It completely shifted the tuning of the evening. It was incredible, and it was just sounds like this.
We use them like instruments too.
Yeah.
So you can, when you work, you go like, or you have different sounds, you go around. We have bells, we have 3 on, and you walk through while you're doing your instrument, you have the coconuts on your body. Or you go with many people just around, so the sound comes everywhere. So it's really nice to juggle with even. Well,
So, Hans, this year you're still going to Budapest? When is it?
yes,
November?
I'm going in December. We go to 4D Sound. That's one of the most advanced laboratories of sound in the world in Budapest. Together with one person we met also of our group, and we go investigate the shells, the players, all the sounds comes from the instruments to see what actually is happening. So in the same time we have now Trey Shahan, or Shay Trahan, that's one of the other guys. He's an oral architect. He designs big buildings with sound, but he designed a complete new EEG system that records when we're making flutes with a wrist thing. So every time we go play, we play for free, but we ask people, can we record your actions? So to see what's happening with
The
people.
biomarkers,
Yes.
what's happening in the bodies you're playing.
Yeah.
And this, I mentioned to a few people in the group, the institute in Budapest is cutting edge in the world, and it's basically researching omnidirectional spatial sound, 4D from all directions with transducers, so that the floor is vibrating, and we come into a complete novel experience of our embodiment. It's
Yeah.
like you experience yourself as a field of vibration, and the vibration can go through this way, diagonally through the systems, and they have since 2-3 years the foremost young avant-garde sound artists there from all over the world. They can work there in artists in residence, and they all experiment with that sound system. It's a space larger than this, but 3 stories open, and these young people make all these amazing compositions that you actually feel the vibrations going through your body. And
Imagine-
you have experiences, it's like that the body, it's a new experience in the body.
Yes.
You experience your body as a
Of
field.
awareness.
Yeah,
even.
also which can
Yeah.
which can disappear, which can condense, which can expand and
Yeah.
wake. You're awake.
They have a technique. They with ultrasonic sound they can make a virtual space inside a space, and you can record inside of that space, or you hear sound like you're in the Sixtine Chapel, because they have the environment. Not even that, but suppose you're in front of an orchestra who starts to play. Suddenly the orchestra goes through you, turns around, you
Yeah.
go through the flute, out of the violin. So it's and imagine that combining with virtual reality. It's yeah.
You don't need the visual aspect because it's so powerful what it does in the cellular structure of our being. As I said, it goes through you and it turns around and suddenly you think you're upside down. So it also works on your sensory perception of balance, because which is in the inner ear. It's a complete novel experience being in the body.
Yes.
Or not limited to the body. And then we come into this real thing, what we know from the mystic traditions, we're fields. We're fields of energy in different densities, and it's so fantastic that so many young artists work on
Yes.
that.
But now we go one step further, because part of the Resonance Group, his name is Norbert Veil. That's a guy, old guy, he has Asperger, he lives alone somewhere in an old barn, and he invented 20 years ago a new technique that was amazing, but he was sitting on it like an egg because he was afraid to give it away. He found a way to record with crystals. The way he does it, he has a whole barn, and he has plugs in the wall with crystals. He has a case of Faraday. So first he cleans up the space of all radiation, all kind of things, and then his technique is, he said, sound it's a wave, but the wave is only a transporter. What it transports is resonance, but also intentions.
Consciousness.
The consciousness of which a building is built, an instrument is built, the moment somebody plays, the thought of the moment who thinks that his mother, what his mother would think while he's playing. Every intention ever have to be done with the space and the persons, you can record, and the incredible thing is that doesn't cost any energy. So first he cleans up, so what's not there, you don't have to record, and then he uses crystals in his microphones, in the wires, in his whole setup, and we did recordings there, and he have a setup. It's really incredible. He has 2 old Philips speakers of 9 watts, just simple speakers of 1974, and he puts them on 9 watts in his room, and you hear the recording of a big church organ with 2-foot pipes, the really big, really low pipes, with a woman singing, and the walls start to tremble. You hear the organ like you're there. You feel the feeling of the church. You hear the emotion of the woman, a little bit trembling, because she's nervous of that recording. You hear the guy. You feel the guy playing the organ. And not even that. You only have 2 small speakers standing there, and you can walk around the speakers. Doesn't matter. The sound doesn't come out of the speakers. They provide the momentum, but the sound is everywhere. When you go outside the door, it's like they're really playing. And not even that. When you walk to the singer in space, you can almost walk around her, and the sound it's so incredible. Many people have come and went again because they said, this is incredible. This is like, I was there with CEO of Google, Ivy Ross. I was there with many people, and they say, I never had, what's the word?
Sonic experience.
Some experience, I cannot explain it, but we don't know how to get this out of this room. When we can reproduce this out of this room, it changed the world in sound. It really does. So first time I met Norbert, it took me, it's a difficult guy. So it really took me to get known, and I went back, and I went back, and I went back. And I took people and I said, no, we don't want to steal anything of you, don't, but here's the big safe, all these papers are in there. And then I recorded my CD there. And then finally I found Paul Oden, the guy
Mhm.
of 40 Sounds, and I took him there. And he was there, and he said, this is what I was waiting for all my life. I have the technique, but what you have, I cannot record. If you can reproduce this in my laboratory, then we can work together. So now they are coming, and I think next year, maybe the year after, the whole setup is going to Paul's laboratory, and they go reproduce it, and that's something beautiful.
So the beautiful thing of this one is just like to wrap it up, and all this what Hans told is happening in the last 3-4 years.
Yes.
One way,
Through-
and in one way it's so beautiful for me also that that Auroville is on that map, because it's really there on this forefront and cutting edge of matter and vibration and consciousness.
Yes.
That's basically the research, and it's almost sometimes we have to hold on because things happen very quick, and the things which come and the people you meet from all over the world. And I heard from a few people who went at study in Holland, just everybody, just you cannot hold people cry a lot and stuff because it just dissolves
Yes.
our holdings and our amours and all of that.
So we want to offer everything as a service. So we're not working onto a product, like selling it or whatever. Sometimes you need to sell things to make money to do your research, but all the things like I'm here now, it's like sharing. That's what it's all about. Because when you in, I think now after all this, when you're in service of the world is beautiful. That's what I think. Yeah.
And the world supports what we're doing.
Really. Sorry, it's not because I'm sitting wrong. Some of the hole gets covered by your hair,
Okay.
so I need to find another way. So normally I have a chair, but in India they don't have chairs.
We do have chairs. The blue chairs are there.
Yeah.
But this is better.
Yeah?
This is better. Okay. Still want to go?
Bing.